for those that are asking. It has not been distributed yet. I will play with it and not to steal or modify the text, but in terms of having it in to distribute in both official languages, because I know some of you might request it in the other official language. And as we've discussed previously in this space, people come and present in their preferred language, and within the scope of the network, we manage to distribute the information in your preferred language, but here is a safe space for those that want to speak a specific language to speak that specific language. J'espère que ça clarifie un peu la question, mais oui, l'enregistrement sera partagé avec les présentateurs et le matériel vous sera éventuellement distribué dans les 2 langues officielles. Tout ça, toute une grande mise en entrée, là. Mais encore une fois, merci à Jules et à Vanessa de venir présenter pour nous. Je vais partager la présentation à l'écran. On a eu cette conversation-là aussi par le passé. So we've had this conversation in the past. I will attempt to use PowerPoint Live, which means that you on the receiving end can put it in your preferred official language and even a few extra languages. Juste un instant, je vois qu'il y a de l'interprétation. Madame Parent tente de nous contacter. Joël, ne t'inquiète point, je vais y envoyer dans 30 secondes. So within the scope of how you perceive the information, you can tweak the font, you can play with it, you can scroll back and forth, and you can make it bigger and all that good stuff. So make sure to put your preferred language once I do open it. Juste un petit instant, c'est le multitâche plus. Voilà. On fait ce qu'on peut. Donc, c'est envoyé si jamais tu vois le courriel, Joël. Pas d'inquiétude. Tout est fait. Puis, je partage ça. Merci pour la patience. Et on y va. Et moi, je vais mettre en sourdine, mais si vous avez des questions, sentez-vous libre de la poser ou aussi de lever votre petite main virtuelle au besoin. Puis, on adressera vos questions ou vos commentaires. Merci. Puis, on peut me confirmer si on la voit. Do we see the presentation? Awesome. So, for the presenters, when you need me to flip it, just tell me and I shall do it. Merci. Or you can do it as well yourself, but I don't think we'll see it on our end. Merci.
Je vais commencer. كوين وتمتشيك نيل ماك فانيسون مش تملن دينان وديك حاجات تكونيات تجي وابرليدات بتسونان إيدو دمات هاشيغات بيغوبن يفهو ديتيات كين مش تملن دينان وديك حاجات نيناك تجي وابرليدات مي بتسونان إنوين ونوينا. Merci beaucoup. Ce que je disais à Ninou, moi et Vanessa, nous sommes très reconnaissants de cette invitation-là pour discuter évidemment de notre travail qu'on a compris depuis 1 an sur les langues autochtones. Beaucoup de travail s'est effectué au cours de ces mois derniers et nous allons vous présenter ce qu'on a fait depuis ces mois-là. Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. And I just wanted to say thank you for having us. It's a great pleasure to be here and to share what we've learned and what we do in regards to Indigenous languages. I am Inuit and Ojibwe. My mother is Inuit from Sanikiluwak, Nunavut. However, she was born in Moose Factory, Ontario, and my father is from Matagami First Nation, which is also in Northern Ontario. I currently live in North Bay. This is the lands of Nipissing First Nation. And this summer I got to attend 2 of their powwows and meet the chief, Scott McLeod, and really immerse myself with the people here. And I absolutely love living here. I've worked for the federal government now for over 10 years. I actually started in the mailroom and I worked my way up to this dream position. And I say dream position because I honestly can't believe that this is what I get to do every day. It's something very rewarding and honorable to do. So I'm very grateful for the path that led me to this. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you all, with my amazing coworker Jules, about Indigenous languages at the Translation Bureau.
Moi, mon nom, c'est Jules Picard. Je suis natif de la communauté de Pessamit, communauté Innu. Moi, je suis parti à l'âge de 17 ans pour aller étudier. Et j'ai été intervenant social et responsable de services de santé et services sociaux pendant 30 ans. Je suis retraité du réseau de la santé et des services sociaux des Premières Nations du Québec. Et à ma retraite, j'ai commencé à travailler sur la langue Innu. Notre conseil de membres m'avait donné un mandat de coordonner un groupe de locuteurs pour la traduction d'un document qui est la Constitution Innu de Mastoyache. Et en même temps, nous avons développé un lexique en terminologie institutionnelle. Je suis avec le bureau de la traduction quasiment, ça va faire 1 an au mois de septembre. Au mois de décembre, excusez, au mois de décembre. Et je suis très heureux tous les matins quand j'ouvre mon ordinateur pour travailler au niveau du bureau de la traduction. Et évidemment, je suis tellement fier de participer à la revitalisation des langues autochtones au niveau de notre pays et avec évidemment la participation du bureau de traduction. Changer d'acétate. OK, l'autre, s'il vous plaît. OK. Je vais vous parler un peu pas juste un peu, mais je vais vous parler un peu de ce qui se passe avec le bureau, les services qu'on offre, qui concerne évidemment de ce qu'on a géré comme revenu. Nous autres, on fournit la traduction et l'interprétation et évidemment les services terminologiques au niveau des langues officielles, langues autochtones, les langues étrangères et évidemment le langage des signes. Le bureau sert le Parlement, évidemment, aussi tous les départements, pas les départements, les ministères fédéraux et agences. Évidemment, il y a un coût qui est rattaché à ça. Au cours de l'année 2021, le bureau a généré à peu près 200 millions de dollars en l'année 2021 et on a été classé 15e au niveau du monde pour les services des langues comme fournisseur par le bureau de CSA Research. En termes de volume de traduction, on a à peu près, notre volume se situe à 48% de la traduction et 45% au niveau de l'interprétation, et cela en 2021, en 2023. Excusez, je me trompe, en 2022. On n'a pas encore les données de 2022-2023. On a 1300 employés au niveau national. Au cours de l'année 2020-2021, on a interprété 228 heures et on a traduit à peu près 360 millions de mots dans les langues officielles et en langue étrangère.
Next slide, please. So some of our successful achievements, starting in October of 2019, we had our first ever simultaneous interpretation of the federal leaders debate in Plains Cree, Inuktitut, Ojibwe, East Cree, and Dene. We're very proud of that. And then in March of 2020, we started doing translation of public health COVID-related documents into 12 Indigenous languages. In 2020 and 2021, we had more than 336 lexicons and glossaries in more than 70 Indigenous languages and dialects, and identification of Canadian post-secondary institutions offering Indigenous language programs. July 26, 2021, we provided simultaneous interpretation in Inuktitut of the installation ceremony of the new Governor General, Mary Simon. In September 8th and 9th of 2021, our interpretation of the federal leaders debate was in East Cree, Ojibwe, Plains Cree, Inuktitut, Dene, and for the first time, Innu. And of course, many of us remember July 2022, the PayPal visit to Canada was interpreted in 12 Indigenous languages, and the documents were translated into 26 Indigenous languages. Next slide, please.
Au cours des derniers mois, on a réussi à faire des ateliers de formation pour les interprètes Inuktitut et Nunavut le mois dernier, mars dernier. On a eu plusieurs candidates et un candidat de ce groupe-là. Et la même chose, on a fait une autre formation pour les interprètes à Nunavut en mai dernier. Et voici les photos de ces personnes-là qui ont participé à ces ateliers.
Next slide, please. And just last week, we had Blackfoot and Mi'kmaq language come to Ottawa for our September 2023 workshop. And just to give a little more information on that, what that entails is we have a group of languages, whether it's like we've already showed you, but this time it was Blackfoot and Mi'kmaq. And we actually have them come to Ottawa. We meet them there. We have real life lab experience. And also we bring them on tours to Parliament and have experts come in and make it so that they're comfortable when they're called upon to come to Parliament or to a committee to be able to interpret. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of the job. I do like going to Ottawa, but I also enjoy meeting so many different people, mostly elders, and it's one of the most rewarding parts of my job. So we are having another one hopefully in November. That would make 4 for this year, and that's quite a bit. So if I could do it every month, I would, but it's very exhausting. It's a lot of work and a lot of coordination, but we have a great team behind us, and I think that's why it goes so well. And this picture says it all. So next slide, please.
Bref historique des services d'interprétation en langue autochtone. Il a été traduit au Sénat, le comité des procédures et des règlements. Il a aussi été traduit le comité qui a étudié l'utilisation de l'Inuktitut en 2008. Il y a aussi l'appel en action de la réconciliation et de la vérité au niveau de la commission qui a été traduit aussi, ce plan d'action-là. Il y a aussi les discours des 2 députés, Falcon Wallet, qui a été traduit en cri. Il y a aussi le président de la Chambre des communes qu'on a traduit son discours sur les règlements. Encore, le comité sur les langues officielles qui a étudié la Charte des droits et libertés pour la Chambre des communes. Et on voit sur cette photo-là Dr. Lewis en compagnie du député Robert Falcon Wallet. Pour la première fois, le Bureau de la traduction fournit une interprétation simultanée à la Chambre des communes lors des débats sur les langues autochtones en juin 2019. Évidemment, aussi, suite à ce débat-là, il y a eu l'adoption de la loi C-99, la loi sur les langues autochtones en 2019. Et évidemment, aussi, il a été interprété, j'ai bien dit, interprété la loi C-15 reconnaissant la déclaration de lui, la déclaration sur, je me rappelle plus du nom, excusez, j'ai un blanc de mémoire, la déclaration sur la déclaration sur les autochtones au niveau de United Nations. Excusez pour le dernier bout que je me suis trompé.
Next slide, please. So some possible opportunities as an interpreter. So our interpreters in Indigenous languages not just translate or interpret from their Indigenous language to English, but also from Indigenous language to French. So some of the opportunities that our interpreters get is special events of national significance, such as the Pope's visit, leaders' debates, and during election periods as the Governor General installation. Interventions in the House of Commons or the Senate chambers, which can range from a minute to 10 to 20 minutes in length. Examples are statements by members happening right before questioning period and or a speech during regular legislative debates. Committee hearings such as the INAN, Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee, usually lasts up to 2 hours long. And when we have those types of events, we usually have 2 or 3 Indigenous interpreters doing a relay for that. Next slide, please.
Les opportunités pour les traducteurs. Évidemment, ça peut supposer aussi de la traduction des documents comme la Charte des droits, des droits et libertés. Il y a des documents aussi qui, comme lors de la visite du peuple, qu'on a traduit, des documents qu'on a traduits à 26 langues, évidemment, lors de cette visite. Il y a aussi les documents de la sécurité publique, au niveau de la santé publique, aussi les annonces. Les rapports sur l'exploitation et la protection de la nature et des parcs nationaux, ainsi que les sites historiques. Il y a aussi, évidemment, les programmes sociaux dont on doit informer la population autochtone et en faire la promotion auprès de ces personnes-là. Évidemment, aussi la promotion de la culture autochtone, de son patrimoine. Il y a aussi les différents rapports au niveau du marché du travail et des questions sociales qui peuvent être traduites, qui vont être traduites éventuellement.
Next slide, please. So the volume of demand of Indigenous languages. So here are our 10 top in-demand Indigenous languages at the Translation Bureau. Number 1 is Inuktitut. Number 2 is Inuktitut. Number 3 is Ojibwe. Number 4 is Plains Cree. Number 5 is Mi'kmaq. Number 6 is Mischief. Number 7 is Oji-Cree. Number 8 is Inuanum. Number 9 is Dene. And number 10 is Algonquin. So the number of words interpreted and the number of requests for 2022 and 2023 processed words is 1,242,121. And the number of words translated in 2022-2023 is 29,314. So as you could see, we have a high demand and it's continuing to grow even now. So it's really exciting to be a part of this. Next slide, please.
Yours, Vanessa.
Oh, it's mine again.
Yeah.
So our recruitment numbers, we are at, I believe, 112 now since this update. We're continuously adding new Indigenous freelancers every day, and we have 58 languages. However, those 58 languages do not reflect the number of dialects we have obtained. We're working on that so that we could get a true picture of how many actual languages we have. We also have 82 Indigenous suppliers trained in interpretation. That's 13 training workshops and 27 Indigenous languages. Like you've seen with the Blackfoot and the Inuktitut and so on. That's what I'm talking about there. So our numbers are really raising. When I started, I believe we were only in the 50s, and we've already doubled in the year that we've been here. So we see that this is going to be continuous as long as we keep getting out there and sharing what we're doing here at the Translation Bureau. Next slide, please. And finally, how to request our services. You don't ask me and Jules. Jules and I are only here to share our knowledge, and we also recruit and maintain and support our Indigenous freelancers. However, if you require services, this is the link you would go to request services, and there is a cost associated. And when you think of that, think about our Indigenous freelancers. They need to be compensated for their time. So there's obviously going to be a cost. We're asking people to try to think about it at budget time and try to include it in your budget. But we're also working on other ways to try to lower the expenses. So, for example, often we get asked just for a few short words such as welcome or things like that. And we don't want to have to charge a whole hour for that. So we're working on compiling a very common list, 250 words, and we're going to have that translated into as many Indigenous languages as possible. This way, when we're asked for certain little projects like that, we're able to provide them because it benefits the Indigenous community to have that as well as the government. Next slide, please. Questions? Does anybody
That's
have
when
questions?
people are shy, so I usually throw the first ball, and then people will come on board, or maybe they're thinking about their questions. I would say an easy one. Oh, voila. And I'll just ask this. How do you recruit your freelancers?
Great question. So there's multiple different ways. I think that's why I'm in this position is I'm very connected to the Indigenous community, whether that's through my own personal social media. I did the Powwow Trail this summer, and I don't turn off a work mode and a home mode. So oftentimes I'm continuously looking for Indigenous languages, either at the powwows or in my own events that I'm going to. However, we are able to travel usually about 4 times every 6 months to different communities. We've been to Winnipeg, we've been to BC. Jules has been to some places in Quebec, and upcoming we're going to be going to Nova Scotia, Nunavut, and back again to BC. So we do it that way, but also when we have our interpretation workshops, the people love it and enjoy it so much that when they go home, they send us more names, more names, more names. So it's like a snowball effect. We're continuously adding. So that's really good too, and so I really enjoy that. But it's basically getting your name out there and continuously looking and finding those language speakers.
Merci. So a whole lot of relationship building, I understand.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Diane?
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm sorry if you've said this during your presentation, I missed it. If we were to have, for example, a public service-wide event or a department-wide event, and we want to include Indigenous languages for our employees, how do you determine which ones that you typically would offer?
So usually it's by the area you live in, right? You want the Indigenous people of that area to understand. So like, for example, I don't know, I'll say in Alberta, you wouldn't necessarily have Inuktitut there because there's not a high population of Inuit. But in Ottawa, there is. So if you're in Ottawa, you would want to have that language. So that's how you would determine what language you would choose.
Thank
Good
you.
question, though.
Merci Diane, puis ça rêve parce que je veux pas voler ton tonnerre. Je sais pas si ça se dit en français. Peut-être la liste que tu avais trouvée l'autre jour avec la carte interactive, là, peut-être la mettre dans le chat ou sinon je peux fouiller tantôt puis l'envoyer. Puis c'était sur le bureau de la trad, là, justement, si tu es situé dans une telle région, voici les langues qui sont les langues autochtones de la région ou du territoire. Donc, voici vers quoi vous devriez vous tourner. Donc, on va mettre ça tantôt dans le clavardage. I do see a question in the chat in terms of have you considered this program in Indigenous friendship centers?
Absolutely. We're continuously working, reaching out. That's the other part I forgot is that we do virtual as well because can't be everywhere. So we do virtual presentations to certain Indigenous organizations, such as the Friendship Centers, but also like other places such as Canadian Heritage and the Indigenous Language Commissioner, the people that are already building. We're working on meeting with our national Indigenous organizations to let them know, hey, we're here and if you want to work together and reach out and stuff like that. I also seen the question about distribute the list of common words. We're in the process of developing. We haven't even got there yet, so you won't be able to get a copy of it. But I just wanted to let you know that we are thinking outside the box of trying to lower costs and stuff like that.
Juste pour compléter aussi,
Oui.
Vanessa, je voudrais compléter concernant les centres d'amitié. Au Québec, il y a certains centres d'amitié qui offrent le service d'interprétation pour la clientèle, admettons, algonquine-cri, et nous, pour les accompagnements, soit vers les services de santé ou vers les services juridiques, admettons, tels que les tribunaux. Donc, ils offrent leurs services à eux autres. C'est sûr qu'on peut aller chercher leur interprète et leur traducteur. Évidemment, nous autres, quand on en a besoin, ils pourraient faire partie de notre master list de ces gens-là. C'est tout.
Merci. Kat, have a question?
Yes, hi and bonjour à tout le monde. I'm going to be signing in ASL for the moment. Just want to make sure that the ASL interpreter has their eyes on me, and she does. I don't know if my question is a challenging one, but I'll pose it anyways. I wonder if you have information on the number of deaf Indigenous individuals here in Canada. Are those stats that you might have?
I don't have them, but I've thought about them. I actually found an Indigenous ASL for, I believe it's Ojibwe. I was very surprised. They're very rare and they're hard to find. They haven't reached back out to me, but I know they exist. So I'm going to keep trying on that. But I don't have those stats. And I think that that's coming and I think it's important. So hopefully that'll keep us on our toes to keep on trying and looking. And if you know of any, please send them our way.
Absolutely. I will. Parfait. I will let you know if I find anything. And I'm also signing my message in LSQ. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Catherine. And I think it's a great point. Maybe it's something that could be added to a future census in terms of who speaks the specific sign languages. I don't know that they capture it now, but maybe in addition, it could be all of these sign languages. Je ne sais pas s'il y a d'autres questions parce que moi j'ai toujours des questions. I'm like the question person. Donc, I would say, what can we do as a community? Because here you have people that work in the employment equity, diversity, and inclusion space, as well as anti-racism space and decolonialism spaces. So I'm just wondering, how can we best support Indigenous languages, either at work or at home, to make sure that they are seen, heard, and revitalized? as much as we can. Thank you.
Jules, do you want to answer that one?
Une partie, l'autre part, I'll let you go.
Okay, let me go first. Okay,
No.
so, you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Comment je pourrais expliquer ça? Mais je vais me risquer. C'est sûr, plus que la langue est entendue, plus que la langue rayonne. Ça ne veut pas nécessairement dire qu'elle va se revitaliser. Moi, je me dis, par nos institutions là, fédérales telles que le Sénat, le débat de questions pourrait être traduit dans les langues autochtones. La même chose pour le débat au niveau du Sénat. Je pense que ça pourrait être traduit. C'est sûr, c'est un projet à long terme. L'autre façon, je pense aussi, c'est que les Autochtones eux-mêmes, par leur institution, doivent aussi interpréter leur débat en langue autochtone. Au Québec, on traduit l'Assemblée des Premières Nations Québec-Labrador, depuis une quarantaine d'années, traduit les langues officielles, du français à l'anglais vers le français. Et je crois que ce serait peut-être une belle occasion pour ces régions régionales de traduire ou interpréter leurs débats, eux autres aussi, leurs débats publics. Il en est de même aussi pour les gouvernements locaux. Moi, je pense que c'est une belle façon de dire, donnons-nous de l'espace dans nos réseaux à nous autres pour faire valoir les langues autochtones via nos institutions et aussi que les Premières Nations fassent de même, nous autres aussi, dans leurs débats, leurs débats politiques quand ils font des rencontres régionales ou nationales. Moi, je pense que c'est la meilleure façon.
Maybe I'll just summarize because I know some people might be asking themselves. So, Monsieur Picard made sure that he mentioned that the various levels of government should be providing their documents and interpretation of their own institutions. So, whether it's provincial, local, or even community government, they should be providing it. Not only the summaries of the meetings, but also the debates in, yes, English and French, but also the language of the territory. So my very quick summary for those that might be asking themselves. Un grand merci, Monsieur Picard.
Can I just add to that? Yeah.
Yes.
So I like to look at things personal, like internal. So what each of us could do. So you know how it's becoming very comfortable to give territorial acknowledgement. You know, we all know how to do it. We all know what the importance is. Well, it's the same thing as greetings. You know, you could learn a simple greeting in all different languages, depending on the territory you're in, or even just to share that knowledge with someone else. So for today, I'm going to tell you how to say thank you in Inuktitut. So to say thank you, it would be nakamik, nakamik. So that's what it would be nice. Like, and I'm telling you, it works wonderfully. Because if you ever meet an Inuit and you said nakamik, they would, they would be thrilled by it. I see my husband who's non-Indigenous, and we live, like I said, in Nipissing, and we go to the reserve and stuff, and he's non-Indigenous, and he goes and gets his gas or whatever, and when he's done, he'll say miigwech. And their eyes light right up because that's a way of saying thank you in their language. So taking that extra step or learning street names or, monuments and stuff like that that are in Indigenous language, as difficult as they are, you could go on YouTube and listen over and over to learn how to say it. Or, I think that goes a long way, is just learning and being a part of, the Indigenous languages.
Merci beaucoup. La comique or miigwech.
Pas comique.
Miawen. We'll try. Je ne sais pas s'il y a d'autres questions ou sinon, moi j'en ai d'autres aussi. Fait que, any takers? Non, les gens sont gênés parfois. What are your hopes for the future? Ah, j'ai vu ça, Lange. Mais je vais peut-être poser ma question en premier. What are your hopes for the future in terms of Indigenous languages?
Do you want to answer?
Moi, les espérances concernant la langue, que tous les projets de revitalisation des langues autochtones à travers le Canada, il y en a plusieurs, qui puissent avoir une réussite, qu'on puisse avoir plus de locuteurs, qu'on puisse avoir plus de programmes pour les enfants. Et selon une ethnolinguiste, elle a dit, pour atteindre une certaine vivacité de la langue, il faut 33% des enfants d'une communauté puissent apprendre la langue et non le parler, puissent apprendre la langue, 33%. Donc, 33% sur 2000, c'est pas beaucoup. Admettons une population d'enfants à peu près de 1000 d'une communauté, 33%, c'est quand même 300. Mais c'est des petits pas, c'est des gros objectifs. Quand on parle de 33% d'enfants au niveau de la communauté puissent apprendre une langue autochtone. Et moi, je pense que c'est ça. Moi, je pense que c'est mon espoir là, que tous ces projets de revitalisation réussissent et connaissent beaucoup de succès sur une horizon de 5 à 10 ans pour avoir plus de locuteurs. C'est mon espérance, mon espoir.
Magnifique. Merci beaucoup. Just a quick summary, one for ESL interpretation as well as those that speak English. So his hope for the future is to get more speakers, and success has been defined as having 33% of youth being able to carry a conversation in an Indigenous language, or really a language, to be able to revitalize it. So that's a high number, or a high percentage, but not really a high number when we're talking about the small communities. So his hope is to get more speakers to be able to revitalize the languages. That's a very quick summary. Sorry. I hope I don't forget anything. And Vanessa?
For me, there's two things. I see it every time that we do a interpretation workshop in Ottawa. We have our language speakers sitting together, some old, some young, and we're literally saving the Indigenous language. They're coming up with modern words. They're discussing, they're even just building relationships within each other, that weren't there before. So I really love being a part of that. The second thing is I really want to rebuild the relationships between Indigenous peoples and the government. There's been a lot of damage, and being a part of that is what will ensure that our languages are kept. So I really like to be a part of ensuring that our languages aren't forgotten, ensuring that our people are not forgotten, and just ensuring that the government is aware of our protocols and how to work with us and the importance of that. And some of the barriers that we're continuously working on is, for example, last week when we went to Parliament, we had some very high respected elders who were with us, and they carried their sacred rocks with them, their spirit rock, and they're not big, they're only like this small. Well, the security at the Parliament was concerned about these rocks. They told them, don't take them out of their pocket, keep them in their pocket. They touched them, things like that. So now it's my job to go back and make sure that never happens again. And I'm always testing. I'll go into Parliament with my medicine pouch, but they don't bug me because they know I'm a federal employee. So it's continuously breaking barriers, and what it is educating and understanding each other. Our elders aren't going to come and take those rocks and throw them at someone, because I don't understand what else they think that they were going to do with them. But these are certain barriers that we're continuously breaking. And that's probably a very important part, because it builds trust, it builds relationships, and it builds understanding. So that's my 2 cents.
Wonderful. And it is giving back the space that you deserve. So wonderful, removing those barriers. I think it resonates with a lot of people as we are working in employment equity, diversity, and inclusion, whereas by default, our mandate is to remove barriers. So I think ensuring maybe that those protocols that exist or are created, at least the documents are given and shared widely so people know how to interact, they know how to identify a barrier to be able to remove it. So I love that working together and reconciliation are at the forefront of how we can actually help revitalize the languages. Je sais pas. Je m'essaye encore. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Solange, est-ce que vous êtes moins gênée?
Donc, Nakumik, thank you à vous tous pour votre présentation. Y aurait-il dans l'avenir un projet du type appli comme un Moril pour apprendre les langues autochtones? Are there plans for a future app, a project like the Moril to help learn Indigenous languages?
Je vais tenter de vous répondre. L'Institut du Capesh Inuit, a développé plusieurs lexiques et aussi a développé des dictionnaires. Et il y a des applications aussi comment apprendre à prononcer l'Elewon, le Innu. Et aussi, il y a une application comment apprendre la langue Innu sur Innu Tikapesh, l'Institut Tikapesh. Je sais qu'aussi l'Atlas des langues autochtones, il y a certaines parties d'applications sur les apprentissages, mais je les ai pas essayées, mais je sais que l'Institut Tikapesh, je l'ai essayé, et aussi des amis non autochtones l'ont essayé. C'est sûr qu'ils ne parlent pas la langue, mais ils connaissent certaines définitions, certaines interprétations des mots qu'on utilise quotidiennement. Mais c'est sûr que c'est une application. Mais ce ne serait peut-être pas notre rôle à nous autres de développer ce genre d'outil-là, une application de ce genre.
Merci beaucoup pour la réponse. Et puis, M. Picard disait qu'il y a une application qui a été développée par une communauté, mais c'est quand même limité. Pourquoi je dis en français, j'ai aucune espèce de... Monsieur Picard was saying that an application has been created where some words were used, but not all of them. They're kind of restricted in terms of what could be discussed, because really they're not using common day or everyday words, but it's very... It's good, but it's basic. So the one he was referring to is an Innu language, to start learning the Innu language. I'm sure there's others out there, but again, and that's me speaking from the I perspective, you probably don't have the same interaction or the same motivation with an application that you would have with human beings, and the whole cultural context in which languages are to be learned and how they are used would be missing, basically, because I think it's something that French speakers or English speakers might not see, that the Indigenous languages are pretty much the way they're structured. It's different than in French and in English. Like I believe snow, the word snow in one specific language, there's like a whole lot of ways of describing it, whereas in French, il y a de la neige. Il y a de la neige, c'est pas, il y a de la neige froide et délicate, il y a de la neige mouillée. So there's that component that would be missing, I feel. But it's still a good way, I guess, to look at it, to know what it is about, but maybe not the best to learn the actual language. And I know that emphasis is to be on people who need to or want to revitalize their own languages as opposed to other communities, but that's a whole other debate we could have offline in terms of where the resources go. Mais encore une fois, si les gens sont trop gênés ou n'osent pas poser des questions, je vais remercier les présentateurs qui sont venus aujourd'hui. So I'd like to thank the presenters that came today, the presenters, and sorry, end of day. I'm starting to mix my French and in my English. And again, thank you for those that came. Curiosity is a gift in this space. Asking questions means you have an interest, which means we can make a difference. If we don't ask questions, we don't know. So never be afraid of asking polite questions. N'ayez jamais peur de poser des questions polies. Je pense que la curiosité est ce qui nous amène à trouver des solutions ensemble. Donc, encore une fois, merci beaucoup pour la présentation. Thank you so much for the presentation. And hoping to see more of everybody in the very near future. Et merci José pour l'interprétation. And to all, I hope you have